Hi, everyone.
Hola.
Here we are. It's always hard clicking those little things, making sure that we're on. Oh my goodness. Hi, everyone. This is Light a Joint with Ida. Welcome. I have Nicole Freed with me today. How are you?
I am fabulous.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for being here and having me on your show.
Yes, I'm so excited. So I love the room we're in. So we're at your house. We're on Whitmore Lake.
Yeah.
And you painted your room this wonderful green color.
Yes.
I love this.
I love colors.
You've got plants everywhere, and it's so pretty.
It is, yes. It's it's my comfort space.
Yeah. Well, we have to create that no matter where we're at.
We do.
And we can make a home anywhere, really, if you think about it.
I'm a firm believer. Home is where the heart is, and bottom line, this is all a structure that we can create and recreate anywhere.
Exactly. Yep. And for me, like the smaller the space, the easier it is to clean. I'm done with the big houses.
Absolutely.
My 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, it still gets messy.
It's perfect. Dust never goes away.
No.
There's always stuff. You always have to eat.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, and then when you're not home, things just pile up, and it's like, wait a minute,
yeah.
It's just me. How did it get this trashed?
Right.
And then you add kids and husband and everyone else on top of that. Pets.
Like the dishes are the never ending. It's the humbling experience that no matter what you can do or how gifted you are at doing it, you always got to do the dishes.
Right.
They're never going to go away.
So I feel like I met you. Gosh, it's been like 3 years now, maybe 2.5.
I think it's been a couple. Maybe we met in 20. I think I was already married.
Yeah, I feel like it was the summer of 2020, maybe spring-ish, something like that.
Yeah. So it's been a couple of years.
Well, and I feel that we call into our reality those friends that we need.
Yes. Soul sisters.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So did you grow up in Michigan?
I did. I've always lived in Michigan.
Okay.
I grew up, I was born in Livonia. I lived in Novi, but the bulk of my childhood was in South Lyon.
Okay.
That's, I went to school, kindergarten through, graduation there.
Right.
And then, once I turned 18, I did my thing.
Finding myself
in the Metro Detroit area. I've been here at Whitmore Lake for 3 years now. So
okay.
Yeah.
And how was it for you growing up? Like what was the role for cannabis as far as your family was concerned?
Oh yeah, cannabis was not in the picture. It wasn't
at all.
Not at all. It wasn't something nobody in my family used it. It's not something that was, talked about or discussed. My mom's a nurse and RN, so I definitely was raised in, the Western medical model.
Right. Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. So it's definitely been an interesting process in taking everything that I did learn in my experiences and, from what my mom taught me and, my own learning, and then delving into these other arenas and paths of, more metaphysical work and alternative therapies and healing and, massage and acupuncture, nutrition, and
completely opposite
and energy
from
work.
How you were raised. Yeah. how
now, like I haven't even taken. I don't think I've even taken a Tylenol in maybe 7 years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So saying that, when I at the conference, ended up with a really bad migraine, and someone offered me an Excedrin.
Yeah.
And at first I hesitated, and I was like, because I don't do caffeine at all. Even my tea is it's herbal tea.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'll go ahead, I'll take one. And it was like 8:00 at night. Doggone if I wasn't up till 4:30 that morning. And I did like 1 ml of RSO to go to sleep. And I was still wired. And I was like, all right, I'm not taking anything else because I got to be able to get up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So
I suffer from, migraines, and I had been on pills for migraines, and done everything. But honestly, when I detoxed from pharmaceuticals, it helped with a lot of the migraine issues.
Okay.
Switching my nutrition changed a lot. I did a lot of detoxing nutritionally for a few years where, I mean, now it's just about balance and eating natural foods. But I mean, I was gluten-free and caffeine-free, you know.
Right.
Now
Trying to figure out your balance and what your body can intake.
Yeah, and just kind of clearing everything
Flushing,
out
yes.
and then, you know, rebuilding. And it's definitely a nicer space to be in where I can enjoy anything now, just, you know, in moderation instead of, you know, going that path. But, you know, cannabis was really huge. And, you know, I always was, you know, my first time I smoked weed, you know, I best friend when I was 15. And,
Nice.
you know, you know, it's always something that, you know, was a part of my lifestyle, you know, to smoke. But when I did get off those pharmaceuticals for, you know, depression, anxiety, and ADD, I really upped the cannabis feature and not just smoking. And, you know, I was doing different things with medicals and capsules and the oils and CBD and just, you know, figuring out the balance. And I mean, in that transition period of coming off, I mean, I was on a lot of cannabis.
Why were you on pharmaceuticals?
I am bipolar and I have PTSD, fibromyalgia, ADHD. So when I was 15, I really had a big trigger for some trauma.
Okay.
And it really exploded the bipolar piece and symptoms and hormones, of course, and where it was something I had like more managed or kept hidden kind of when I was younger. I mean, it was always emotional, but it was something that I didn't, you know, I hid when I cried. I didn't, you know, it's not something I was doing in front of people where they would know that I was sad, because, you know, I was very shameful about it. And where now I'm like,
I cry.
I
every
need to
day,
cry.
right?
I need to cry, right? Like,
how many people want to see me cry?
Right. Not going to be shameful about it. Like, it's releasing emotions.
So to interrupt you real quick. This is what we're smoking. This is our flower. So we are smoking Cousin Strawberry, and this is from Hillary Delaney. She has a new grow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so this is her
excited
flower.
to try it.
Yeah. Here, I'll add this to our mix over here.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
smells good.
Yeah, you were saying, you know, about the pharmaceuticals and what you were on, and
yeah. So I got put on an entourage of medication to find that balance, because my mania was off the charts. My depression I was just bouncing back and forth. I had insomnia. I wasn't sleeping. I, you know, was self-harming. It was just not a good situation, and nobody knew what to do. So
how old were
I went
you?
to a psychiatrist, and that's what happened. I was 15.
You were 15 when you started getting off of all of your pharmaceuticals.
No. I was on pharmaceuticals for 20 years.
For 20 years.
20 years.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So when I was 35, my grandmother had passed away, and you know, I'm gifted to to connect with the other realms.
Yes,
and
not a lot of people understand that.
No, they don't. And when she died, she really she had been she was diagnosed bipolar after my grandfather died at the age of 50. She had a nervous breakdown, and that's when her diagnosis came up.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know, at that point, you know, she was hospitalized and put on medication, and that was the rest of her life. Well, when she passed, she just helped me. You know, it was just I was getting the memos, and she was coming to me, and, you know, just like, no, it's time for a new chapter. You don't need these anymore. I would go to take the medication. They would fly out of my hands. She would come and visit me and just tell me that I could do it in a different way.
And that's the thing. Like, we all have those experiences. We all have those little moments, you know, where we feel like, is this a sign? And it really is a sign. If we can ground ourselves and humble ourselves and understand that, yes, there really is,
Yes.
a spiritual realm that coexists.
Absolutely, it coexists. I've always been able to connect. And again, as a child, it's not something I really talked about or shared, because to me it was just, more my imagination. And it, I wasn't presented around people with those type of ideologies or perceptions.
Right.
So
And
it wasn't,
you were raised
so I
really
just kind of,
in a religious family too.
yeah, I was raised Catholic. And again, with, my mom being a nurse and the Western medicine model. So it really wasn't, ghosts were something weird and scary. And, oh, is that a haunted house? You know what I mean?
Right.
And, oh, that can't be real. And so it's just kind of, I don't want to say blame. It was my Virgo, now that I know astrology, that really kept me like more keeping my thoughts to myself, keeping my visions to myself, keeping, the messages that I received, auditorily to myself. Because I'm loaded Sag with a Gemini moon, so there's a lot of air and fire in my chart, and I'm just very expansive in, thinking, and adventuring to those higher realms and more philosophical type things. But that Virgo is like, is this appropriate though? Do you need to share this? Do you need to say this? Sure. So that's where I've been with that. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. And I've actually been detoxing from smoking, so this is going to be quite an experience for me today.
Yes.
I've been medicating with my honey.
Okay. Now you grow your own honey.
I have some plants here.
Or not grow it.
I make my own honey.
You can't grow honey.
Yes.
Hello.
You can't grow honey. I buy honey. I'd love to have bees someday.
Right.
Have my own honey. But yes, I make my own honey. I either from medicine that my husband or I have grown, or from another caregiver.
Nice.
And yeah.
So how do you, so infusing honey.
Yeah. So
we're gonna have to talk. I want to figure this one out.
I have a magical butter machine.
Okay.
So I just infuse honey that way, and I'm a Reiki Grandmaster teacher, so
that helps too.
I put all the Reiki and spells and whatever into it, but people really love it. So
right. So
I share with friends.
If we can go back to, did you go to college?
I dabbled a little bit after high school and community college.
I did too. So it
wasn't
my forte.
It wasn't my journey.
Yeah. What led you, I guess, to what was the first step into spiritual or energy work?
I've always wanted to help people, but I don't remember a memory that when I looked at my future that I didn't want to help people. And that's why originally I thought, I want to be a psychologist, I want to be a doctor, I want to all these things. And it's just I learned to tap into it another way. I had seen a commercial for massage therapy, so I started looking into it, and so that was the big door opener for me when I was I started my spiritual studies when I was 20.
Okay.
So that was a big door opener for me, and gaining the tools and the people and the resources to start labeling and recognizing all the things that I had experienced, and and then getting to know, learning the human body more from an anatomical physiological perspective too, because that's important too, and how our bodies work and how they operate and what we put into them, and learning how to manipulate tissues to help ease pain and release trauma, because our muscles hold memory and our energy fields hold memory, and it's it's about learning to, manipulate it in a safe and gentle way, really utilizing, more of the energy from the higher realms, from, the light source, from the, we're all one. This is, how it's going to be. And there's always going to be light and dark pieces, right? There's always going to be shadow sides. It's always the yin and the yang. Like you can never make everything bad go away, right? But it's about learning to kind of use the light to transmute that dark, so it can be more of a powerful force to kind of help you grow and get to where you need to grow, and heal to get to where you need to heal. And because we're all in this journey,
we are,
and it's not easy. And we each have our own path, and as much as we, connect with one another, and, have these relationships and friendships, and, that are part of our life and are part of our story and are part of our lessons, we still each have our own individual things to do. And then it's everyone doing their individual things, and yay.
Right. Well, it's
Let's
interesting.
have a party.
Yeah. And
welcome to the tribe.
It's interesting, kind of like, again, like how religion just tries to shut this part of spiritualism down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad to me too, like how in a way it's been capitalized and monetized.
It's always about money, right?
And commercialized, because there's a lot of fake spiritualism, just like there's a lot of fakeism in any industry that you're in, but unfortunately I feel like they're really taking advantage of a lot of people.
For sure.
I took a shower and my ear is like clogging up, so I'm gonna have to do candling the fall for me.
You squeezed around. Can I touch it?
Yeah. I have I think you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
I have really like fall allergies, and they're driving me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I had found, I was going through some old journals, and I had found an entry, I think it was like 2011, and I had just written, I'm just here to help people. I'm just here to love, and, I would do this work even if I didn't make any money.
Right.
It's just who I am.
Oh, I think you're getting it. Wow. So after Bella had her hip surgery, she was in an immense amount of pain, and I would get in the bathtub with her, and I would just place my hands, where I felt she was in pain, and I felt like I was releasing that pain for her, and for me, it was like a really powerful experience.
Yeah.
And when I did go for the Reiki training, like I understood, like I've been doing this my entire life.
Yeah.
Like I know what this is and what I'm doing. I just had to be formally trained in it.
Right. And the symbols are definitely
money. Yes. When you understand what the symbols, signify and how to use them.
Yeah. As I've been practicing for so long now, like it's just Reiki is a part of my life. I mean, I'm cooking, I'm puddings, I'm doing Reiki, I'm talking, I'm doing Reiki.
So what is a metaphysician? Here, you know what? I think that there's questions.
Yes.
The college is overrated, mostly for context.
It is.
Yeah. So, okay. If you have any questions, shoot them our way. But, what was I saying? I'm sorry.
Metaphysician.
Yes. Give me the definition of what that is, because I don't know if I really understand.
So a metaphysician is somebody who is talented and works with the energetic field, with more, quantum physics, using, the energetics of things, and manipulating that energy for greater good. I mean, of course, and there's dark magic out there, but I'm not dark magic.
Well, yes, and that's something that I'm really beginning to understand is like
it's about intention.
Yeah, and it's what we create, and the darkness, in a sense, was created. It's interesting when you really begin to like understand all of this.
And as a clairvoyant, I'm a very visual person, and so I'm able to kind of create these like constructs in the other realms that help heal and shift and soothe and, you know, do whatever it's meant to do. It's my joke that my brain works like a psychedelic without the drugs, which is a beautiful thing. I actually never, I do integrate psychedelics as part of, my medicine at this point in my life, but I didn't use any psychedelics until I was 36. So, and I remember when friends would talk about it and friends would share it. I remember when I was, my young days when everybody's experimenting, my best friends were like, no, you shouldn't do this. And
because we were all raised and told it was wrong and you
no, but because of my brain. My friends would be using, but they would be like, I don't think that this is a good idea for you, Nicole, just knowing.
Right. Okay. That's interesting though.
Yeah. And I'm very grateful that I didn't, because then when I did try, and I think about all the trauma pieces that I've worked through, in that time space before I did start medicating that way.
Yes.
It probably could have gone a lot of different ways in terms of not being therapeutic for me.
Right.
And
I will say that's true, because for me, like, I had researched, what they were all about, and they find you when you're ready for them.
when you get the call for certain medicines, whether it's ayahuasca or cannabis or mushrooms or just using some lavender,
right. Food itself,
and any medicine, it's just you're called, you're drawn, and it's what you need to do.
Right. But it's just so interesting how, again, like we've shoved those abilities down because we don't understand them. We can't really measure them. We can't. There's no scientific,
and that's the hard thing. Like I can say that I see something or I do something, but again, there's no quantification. Just like love, like
exactly.
There's love. There's always love, but nobody can measure love.
Right.
It's immeasurable, and it's kind of the other realms in the energy world. It exists, and they are figuring out ways to quantify it. I have a lot of healer friends getting different like EEGs and things like that they're trying to monitor on medication, without medication, just to kind of see if there is a way to quantify. But a beautiful thing about when you connect with your soul tribe is meeting friends with similar gifts and talents, and when saying like, oh my gosh, I just did this in the metaphysical realms, and they're like, yeah, I see it. To have my mentor send me a message and say, your metaphysical works are just, I'm really proud of them right now. For her to just like connect through the ethers and say that, to be able to see what I've been doing in the spaces that other people can, is,
I love that.
It's
love
reassuring.
That. It is reassuring, and again, it's just embracing that. And for me, it's like I'm 47. It's like I'm finally coming into my own and figuring out me. Instead of what I'm being told what I should do, or how I should act, or what I should say or not say, or and it's like, for the first time, it's like, no, I'm giving myself my power back.
For sure.
And so we were talking about boundaries earlier.
Yeah. And I will say, it's another joke that I have. While we all as humans need to be working with, boundaries with people in this 3D realm, like I have to work really, really hard on boundaries in the spiritual realm. And it's something that, thank goodness for, friends and mentors, and taking, the time and initiative to, hone my training and, reach out and get as much information as possible. It's really helped with those spiritual boundaries, where there's definitely a point in my life, like the spiritual boundaries were not there, and I was a little bit crazy. Not gonna lie.
Well, again, though, we're not taught as a society how to take care of ourselves.
Right.
Really how to take care of ourselves. We're taught how to take care of other people. We're taught how to take care of our parents. We're taught how to take care of our siblings. When we're kids ourselves. And then you move right into, marriage and family, and you have kids all of a sudden. And where's your time? Where's the me time? Unfortunately, some of us have to lose everything in order to figure out me.
Right, for sure. And it is something like I've been a big advocate for, in friends, clients, other, any parents, but especially as, women and moms.
Right.
It's not selfish, it's self-care, and you
Right.
need to take
Right.
care of yourself, and you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not good for yourself, then you're not going to be good for anybody else. And it's okay if somebody else doesn't understand a boundary that you're putting up for your well-being, but that's giving them a teaching experience too.
Exactly.
And then a way for them to maybe take a look and see how they can hold better boundaries for themselves in other situations.
Yes.
I've always tried, I've always talked to my son about, energy and
Mm-hmm.
the spiritual world, and he's gifted too, and as a teenager we don't have as many couples as little.
I know. They're further and farther between.
But we do still have some really, really deep, amazing, great ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I cherish
those
when
they happen. They are special. Right. That's the other thing.
But being okay, so he's been raised in a situation like it's okay to talk about these things, and it's okay to have your own opinion about something. It's okay to believe something. It's okay to not believe something. Mm-hmm. It's okay to have this perception. It's okay if somebody else has a different one. Just learning how to work in a healthy way to balance relationships. Mm-hmm. and be a healthy member of society.
And to empathize. So when we are putting up those boundaries,
mm-hmm.
Yes, we're protecting ourselves. It's the other people too who all of a sudden don't have that same amount of access to us that they once did, and they're all of a sudden grappling with their own emotions mm-hmm. and what they're going through. And so it's having that compassion for yourself, and then being able to hold it for others, which is difficult.
It's and it is kind of one of my natural talents, just to hold space for people, just something I've always done. But it's a really rewarding feeling when you do get a chance to hold space with somebody who's not used to that, and it's not necessarily comfortable, even though it's kind of like, oh, what's this?
Right.
Like, oh, like, this is okay. I am safe here. I can feel. It is okay to express. It is okay to have feelings, because we all have feelings. We all have emotions. We all have thought. And we're all just trying to manage them, whether you have a bipolar diagnosis or you don't,
right.
or any other neurotypical DX.
So this is just my own personal,
we're all neurotypical
beliefs, yes, and egocentric.
No one's neurotypical. Everybody has an ego. We're all narcissists. It's the narcissist and the empath. It's everyone learning to find the balance within, and uncovering your own traumas, and loving yourself, mm-hmm. and forgiving yourself, and accepting yourself for anything that you've done, for anything that has happened to you, and that it's just all part of the journey and the lesson and the teaching, and it's nothing to be shameful for.
Not at all.
You're beautiful, you're loved, you're bright, you're amazing. We're all of these things, and it's about learning to tell yourself that.
Yes.
And when you feel that inside, then that helps.
It transforms into the world. You're transmuting that energy. You're sending out that vibration, and that's
and showing others that they have it too, and
everything
they can be okay with it, and they can
love
themselves.
Yeah. So I don't really think that there's. I don't like the stigmas of mental health at all.
No,
it drives me nuts,
because I think we're all crazy.
We are, and I don't believe in it. I mean, again, it's just it's what we're able to deal with and get mm-hmm. past and let go, and how we change that internal dialogue, and
we don't all fit in a box.
No.
And we each can have our own boxes.
Yes,
and we can all
okay.
and we can all have fun together in those boxes.
Exactly. Yes, and it's perspectives. I can learn from you. You can learn from me, and I can have more of an appreciation because you are different.
Mm-hmm.
It's real quick. It's really interesting. When we were in Jamaica, it was Jamaica Day, and they were wanting to braid our hair. And my girlfriend said, no, we can't do that. It's cultural or misappropriation. And they were like, what? They were like, we want you to celebrate our culture. We want you to dress like us and look like us and talk about our culture and share and celebrate. But yet over here in the States, we're just like, no, and
we
people
can learn
get called
so
out
much from so many other countries.
And that's the thing. Like, if I want to put braids in my hair, it's because I think they're beautiful. I love dark-skinned women.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is just beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fair complected. I'm the complete opposite, And so, like, why would I want to try to emulate that? Like, I would love to be darker skinned. I tan as much as I can in the summertime.
Right.
So it's not any different than just love.
It's not.
Embracing each other.
And that we're all humans, and it doesn't matter the size, the shape, the color, the background, the bloodline. We're just all people, and we're all trying.
And we're here together.
We picked this time, we picked this space, we all picked a really difficult timeline to have an effect.
Yes, we did. So astrology, that is something I feel a lot of people are starting to become more aware of.
Yes.
And there really is a connection with all of it, the planets, the moon, the comets, our energy, the stars, when we're born, our time of birth, everything.
The moon can controls the tides.
Our cycles, our monthly cycles.
How can it not have an effect?
Exactly.
Other things.
Yeah.
People joke, I talk about the moon, but it's so I've always been into astrology, I guess would be the way to say it. I actively, really honed in on my studies about 4 years ago.
Okay. What did you do? Like, how did you get into astrology?
My mentor had a class, and it was something because of just everything I had read and dabbled. I remember, like, when the internet came out.
Information overload.
When we were teenage, and that was old, you know what I mean?
Oh my goodness.
Dial-up,
yes.
nothing like today. But I, again, I'm a channel, so I would just randomly do searches, and astrology information is what would come up for me. And like Rick Levine did like a daily, like astrology thing, like forecast, for years for an astrology website.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just read them all the time, and they made sense. And then, when I finally got to a point when I, was like really need to work more on my research and, hone in on things that it was just, my best friend, she calls me an astrology savant. Like, 'cause it's just like, it's just something that I get. It's just naturally, yes. I'm tuned into it. I just really understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And learning it, and it's something I'll be learning and studying for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But in learning it, it helped give me a language for everything that I've felt my whole life. And, from an energetic perspective, in addition to the feelings, it gives an extra language to the feelings, to the emotions, to the things that are happening. Sometimes it's like you almost want to blame a planet. It's not really blaming a planet, but it's identifying what energy is causing whatever situation or experience that, the universe is drawing you towards in that moment. Because it's not easy. The charts are not.
No.
Now, you want to talk about
science.
You can have strength, you can have weaknesses, you can have these things, but they have their own pulls. And the more I talk to people about astrology and read their charts, and they're like, oh my God, yes, it just makes sense. And, and now for me to label instead of trying to label, a diagnosis for a mental illness, like to me, I'm like looking at it like, oh, I bet they have a water moon, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes.
And just kind of labeling it from more not really labeling, but just interpreting it from a different perspective. It actually, when you learn astrology, it activates the same part of your brains that when you're learning a new language.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's learning this new language and then experiencing this new language as you feel the energies as you come up. Because anybody, especially from an astrological standpoint, or any psychic standpoint, you can maybe look into the future and have ideas and concepts based on transits and this and what type of energies we'll be holding, but nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen or exactly how things are going to play out.
And we all still have a choice no matter what.
And I was going to add that, and it's all about free will choice too. Right. I can be working with a client and have a vision, and just because my vision of the future, I'm seeing that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen.
Right.
Like the likelihood is probably pretty good. But then in addition, when I share that piece, then that person then has the power to see that that's a possible potential.
Exactly.
And then they can act accordingly
to set the wheels
to make
motion.
The choices, whether they hope that happens too, or oh my God, no, I don't want that to happen. So if I don't want that to be the outcome, then what do I have to do and change and shift now?
Exactly.
And that's that was another thing with the pharmaceuticals. I got a lot of visuals, and I was getting, a lot of auditory messages from my guides, and they were showing me my insides and my organs, and they were like, your organs, the lifeline that you're trying to sustain this lifetime, your organs will not sustain it if these pills keep going through your system.
Yes.
And I was just like, I've got too much work to do.
Yes. And that's the other thing that we were talking about, like aging. Again, like the only different thing for me is I'm a year older.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm just a year older. And it's like, whew. I am gaining a whole new appreciation, for my mom, for my mom, the elderly population. I mean, I'm 47, but yet I identify, 22, 23.
Yeah.
My physical body does not feel like I'm in my 20s.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely respect the body and aging, again, as a therapist, and I, worked with so many elderly in my career, and, just honoring, and you learn from everybody, right? Like it doesn't matter, if they were a farmer, if they were a lawyer, if they were a writer, you know what I mean? Like you learn from everybody and their experiences, and seeing, and that's been a big thing in, in observing people's bodies and energy fields.
Right.
It helps me create my own philosophies and interpretations on how the body works and what's good for it and what's not. When you're constantly, working with a bunch of people with high sugar issues and that are eating a bunch of junk food, and like you're getting all these messages, it like, okay, it makes sense. And then when you watch them shift out of those behaviors and then see how the body and field it's a really awesome experience.
Absolutely.
I love it. And, honoring that aging process, and our bodies don't work the same, and being gentle. And that's why it's really important to get out of, as a society, it's been, more that patriarchy, go, work. If you're not productive 24/7, then
you're failing.
And it's just, it's not the truth.
No.
And we need to take the moments for rest, and we need to respect our bodies, so that, maybe, what we're learning and doing that and taking those restful moments and not overdoing it when, our intuition is saying, hey, you need to slow down for a minute.
Right.
And honoring the ebbs and flows of life and the waves. Maybe when we're 80 and 90 and 100, you know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe our bodies will be in better shape than some of the 80, 90-year-olds from decades past.
And that's what I'm holding on to.
My line is, I'm young and vibrant forever.
Yes, well, and it's finding like those different things that I can do, at this age, like the balance board I was telling you about.
Yeah.
It simulates, being like on a paddle board or a snowboard. And granted, I can fall down, but it's, your body's like the isometrics.
Yeah.
You're catching yourself. So just in like 2 weeks, I already feel stronger. My hips feel stronger.
It's huge.
My balance.
Body work is so important, and that's why I'm a big advocate of movement in whatever form you need and works for you. You know what I mean? You want to be a runner, you go be a runner. You want to do yoga, you do yoga. You want to lift weights, you do whatever you're comfortable with and you're drawn to.
Exactly.
But the things we can do just with our physical bodies in terms of, yoga and meditation and breath work. I started doing kundalini yoga in my late 20s, and it was just a game changer for me, for my physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. It just helped me balance. It helped me get in better shape. It's amazing what just our breath can do.
Yes.
And that's the thing too. Like some of them, don't get me wrong, some of them it can be like, oh wow, like I haven't worked my legs out in a little bit, or I can feel it more here in my abs. But a lot of the movement, it's so breath work oriented. And then
we take our breath
doing more either slow or like rapid, constant movements. And it's amazing what that can do. And to me, it doesn't feel like a chore, right? Like for me to go and get on a treadmill, like don't get me wrong, I love going for walks in nature and swimming.
Treadmills are different.
But yeah, like for me to go to a gym and work out on a piece of equipment it's just not my thing. Where in the comfort of your own home or in a group, in a yoga class, just to be able to connect with that breath and do these seemingly, I don't want to say silly movements, or I'm struggling for the right word at the moment.
I know.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I do, because they're so
somebody
yes.
looking in would be like, that's not doing anything right, or that's not a big deal, or how hard is that? And and that's the beauty of it, because it doesn't feel so, it just feels good, and it actually tones your muscles and improves your strength, and
you're focused on what you're doing. I think that's the biggest thing.
Is
it's intentional, like you said. You're focused on what you're doing.
It's great for trauma
connecting
work.
with your breath work. Trauma work. Yes.
It helps so many people with physical and emotional traumas.
Right.
For people who are not capable of, necessarily, because a lot of the things, you could do a session just seated, right, and moving your arms or stretching out or just being on the floor where you're not standing.
Right.
And it's still helping it's clearing your adrenals, it's strengthening them, because that's what the trauma boils down to too, is adrenal imbalance and fight or flight. And it's about training your body,
and like you said before, when our cells hold memory, and the light changed, and our cells hold memory. And so that fight or flight, that's what we don't understand sometimes. Like when we have anxiety, it's not so much what we're going through at that moment, but we're remembering our past traumas.
Absolutely.
And then we're identifying with that current moment that, oh, this is what's giving me anxiety, when in reality, no. You just have unresolved issues that, guess what, they're popping up at this inopportune time.
Absolutely. And so many things can, trigger that, and but it's about learning to find the balance, and learning that, something that happened to me in the past doesn't, while yes, it can still have an effect on me, like I am strong, like I have the power, I have the control to make choices to manage it, so I don't feel the same way from it anymore.
Yes, you're giving your,
because it's not like if something happened to you, it happened to you. It's not like you can erase it from the chalkboard, but you can you can clear some of, the damage, the aftermath, and kind of heal and rework that. Our bodies are constantly changing and healing and growing and transforming.
And we're always going to have those
You can grow new brain cells.
You can. Yeah. They're always going to pop up, and and it depends on how far the work that we've done, to how we're going to respond in those situations. And then if we're able to just stay centered in our breath and go, okay, I'm going to not respond right now. I'm going to take a minute. I'm good.
And the energy healing technologies, they really do help kind of rewire and recenter some of those pathways, you know, the way meditation does. And so that you can keep going up.
You had a great way of explaining meditation. Will you explain that again?
I was talking about meditation. I remember I was saying that I'm a big advocate for it, and I'm always encouraging everybody to practice every day if they can, you know, but whatever works. But that people have such a tight interpretation of meditation. It's such like this strong ideology that like it's this one thing and it's very straightforward and cut and dry, and
or it's gonna take me an hour,
and I have to do it for an hour, and my brain has to be completely shut off, and I'm not thinking about anything. And I tell everyone, there are no rules to meditation. There really aren't. It's about taking, you know, even if it's just for a few moments to, you know, connect with your breath, and just, it's not about not having the thoughts. And especially when you come from a trauma brain, or, you know what I mean, a very cerebral brain, somebody who's very mentally busy.
Yes.
It's not about, it's about when the things come in, you thank them, and I'll deal with you later. I don't have to think about you right now. I don't have to think about you right now. And, you know, then as you practice that more and more, they don't come in as easily, and it is easier for them to just snap out without coming right back. And then you keep doing it, and then before you know, I mean,
practice makes perfect. And I feel like that's my new favorite quote.
I'm like living in active meditation, right? I'm like, I was like, oh, where am I going to adventure to now? What dimension are we going to? What color is this world going to be? And then, and, you know, I always talk about when I help guide people through meditations and stuff, you know, I'll use the word, use your imagination, because that's the thing too. It's about being open to using your imagination and letting that just be an open channel, and honoring that things can just come in, and you're not wrong for that. It doesn't matter if it's weird or crazy. That
it's interesting.
You want to talk about weird and crazy things, call me.
But I think you're right though, because when you do meditate, I feel like it helps bring you back into your imagination, and helps cultivate that. And again, practice makes perfect. If we stop doing something, again, imagining how we want to live our lives, and the new adventures we want to go on, and the different skills we want to learn, that is something that we become stagnant in.
Absolutely. And that's when you get in those ruts, and that's when some of those old patterns start resurfacing. And I always like to, it's not about looking at it as a setback. Again, if this is another point you're at in your journey, and something needed to be looked at again. So it's okay that you stopped dreaming for a minute, that you stopped focusing, you know what I mean? Like
patience with yourself, the self-love.
That was the universe kind of guiding you, like, okay, there's something else to look at, because now that you go back and look at this one more time, guess what? This is really going to further launch you when you do start dreaming again, and you do start focusing on that, and you do pick up that book, and you do, you know. And I feel like all of us can relate to that, because how many times, you know, have you been in a situation where you felt like it was going kind of slow, and where you were like, all right, you know what, I'm going to take a step back and let whatever happens, happens. And again, like, that's where we come into that trust, and trust is so important. It's one of those things we forget about. We forget to trust ourselves. And that's, to me, it's about everybody learning to trust themselves more in their own intuition. And that's where the magic is. And no matter what, doesn't matter what,
it's going to be okay. No matter what happens. No matter what happens.
And it doesn't matter what somebody says to you either. If somebody says, oh, I think that this is going to happen, you have every power in your world for that thing to not happen, or for that thing to happen.
Exactly.
It's your choice.
It's really interesting to me. And I like to use this analogy, because it's well, it was a slap across the face. But Bella, I was called for jury duty with Bella, and I just took it to her doctor, and I was just kind of laughing. She was full care, you know. I mean, we were in that hospital every weekend, and you know, her doctor was like, yeah, no, don't worry, I'll take care of this. And she had died, she had passed away, and it was like literally a couple days later, and I had said and thought to myself, wouldn't it be ironic? Wouldn't it be something if I fucking got jury duty right now? And I'll be damned if it wasn't like 3 weeks later in the mail, there's a jury duty summons. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay. And then
So
like,
felt it coming.
yes. And it really like started putting things in perspective for me. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold up.
Right.
And I really started like, diving into some of my past. And it's like, okay, I've got a future I want to create now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to consciously create.
And it's all about that consciousness.
Yes.
And being aware that, everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, it all has an effect. It all matters on you, on other people. And that's, I'm not saying that everything's always sunshine and roses and you're never going to go through stressful times and trials and,
that's just not
gloomy
reality.
Thoughts aren't gonna, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's feelings of sadness or anger or whatever, but it's about recognizing them, identifying them, and making your peace enough to not let it control you, and saying, okay, like, I gave you this time and now it's time for something else.
Yeah.
I had a cry. And now it's time to go right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
It's finding that, in my healing journey, I mean, in my past, I mean, there were times my depression was so bad. I mean, it would just seem like never ending, right? And I'd be in these spaces and I'd cry forever, and and it's really refreshing that to not have my trauma control me that way anymore, and that now it's like, if a sad feeling comes up, you know what, maybe I spend a few minutes crying, 20 minutes to myself, whatever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, feeling the feeling and letting it go, but then being like, okay, but that feeling's gone now.
Now it's time to move on.
So now I can have a different, like, we can change it. Like,
yes. So how did that play into coming off of pharmaceuticals, using cannabis, and then psychedelics? Like, how do you medicate, if you don't mind my asking?
Intuitively.
I
do. And I'm drawn to different things at different times. Again, cannabis, has been part of the journey now for, I'll be 42 in December. So since I was 15, but again, definitely more the medical approach. It does, your body does react different than when smoking, and it actually, your body processes cannabis more similarly to the way it processes psychedelic when you take it internally in like an oil or medical versus smoking when you ingest it. So that just made sense, and then I did have an opportunity, to work with some mushrooms, and I worked with LSD for a little bit. Definitely plant meds are more, I find them to be more therapeutic. They just seem to work better for my brain.
Well, again, though, it's trial and error. It's figuring out what works for you.
Right. I'm not saying that the LSD didn't have positive effects. I just seem to gain more benefits from using the plant meds. So, so I, will utilize mushrooms, and so, I mean, there have been times I've, gone several months where, I'm microdosing every few days, and like, that's what I need for balance. And there are times where it's like, okay, I just need, to dose once or twice a month, or, you know what I mean? Or maybe I go a couple months without anything, and just figuring it out. Again, just following my intuition. I did have, I was called to Aya medicine. I had my first ceremony, January of 2020.
Nice.
Yeah. And then
mine was February of 2020.
Oh, awesome. And then I had another January of this year.
Oh, good for you.
And just working with that medicine has just been a big game changer for me personally. there had been points from some really deep-rooted trauma from when I was younger that I was really struggling to, like, I therapists and energy healers and mentors and learning and my own, you know what I mean? Like doing everything and anything that I could to, come to acceptance and get it to, really release. And I had gotten to an amazing point. Like it got to a point like that thing didn't, like I didn't go into emotional chaos over it anymore or mental chaos over it anymore. But it was still back to the adrenals, the physical trauma piece, where if something to trigger that memory for me came up, like I was okay mentally, emotionally with it.
Right.
But I would feel that trauma response in my body. I would feel my body physically go into fight or flight. And it's a really tough thing to, when you get to that good mental, to still have that physical component where it's like, I just want. And having that ceremony experience, I said, you're never going to cry over that again. And like anything that normally would have triggered me from since, I don't feel it inside anymore. I mean, I did have, within the last 6 months or a year, I did have one piece kind of come up, but it was a circumstantial piece. But again, it didn't do the same thing. And it was about more me making that conscious recognition, like, you have released this. This is time. This is how long you've been trying to release this. Because I had actually found an old letter that I had written.
Talk about you were therapeutically demons head on
years before, and that letter came back up. I had never burnt it, and I was like, okay, it's time to burn it now.
That's amazing. Gotta feel good too, and empowering.
It feels so good.
Yes,
so good.
Yeah.
And my friends make a tincture with the Aya. It's not psychedelic. It doesn't contain the DMT. It's just the Aya root. And it's tincture, so it has alcohol base.
Right.
But that really kind of helps, like, with what the Aya does, and like with the neural pathways and working with anxiety and depression. So that's something that I've been taking. It's more of a CBD type.
As a microdose, in a way. I mean,
as a microdose. But again, it's not psychedelic, but it does kind of help, like,
reconnect you
and sometimes you don't always notice how something's working until and I remember, like, I was getting low and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna wait, and then you just get distracted. And all of a sudden, like, there's one day and my brain was just like, I was feeling anxious in a way, like I couldn't identify. My brain was really busy, where it was really hard for me to focus on, like, all the tasks that I had at hand. And I was just like, and I was like, oh yeah, teacher.
Nice.
Like,
see what we forget and remember. It's sitting right there.
It is. So that's the things I've been working with.
Nice. And so
the
now,
happy medicine, that's been really grounding for me and helping
I want to
stabilize.
Yeah. Nice. So I like how you're utilizing what's working for you.
Yeah.
And you're helping others achieve that as well. So you've started Zen Balancing. That's your business.
That's my business.
And what does that look like? what all would one contact you for?
Yeah. If you want to contact me for anything, I'm a helper. I'm a healer. I'm a Gram Reiki master teacher, astrologist, psychic medium. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I don't practice body work anymore because of my joints. But
that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
Being a therapist, massage therapist.
It is. But I've just pulled and learned and honed just a lot of different healing tools and technologies. I utilize with breath work and movement and nutrition stuff. But if you contact me, a session, it includes, you go over your chart, kind of see what energies are influencing you, how this can help, guide you to where you're trying to go. The energy work piece can really help clear and balance and strengthen different areas. release karmic cords, and I do past life regressions. I, tune into past loved ones if, that's what you want. I'm always tuning into, the higher spiritual world. So you might not necessarily be getting a message from, your deceased family member, but maybe you're getting a message from your gatekeeper or one of your angels, or, an ascended master, one of your, spirit guides, because we all, have this team.
Yes.
And so just working, connecting, and just helping you with whatever you need at that time, and just
I think that's beautiful.
Feel better. Thank you. My client, they're just like, every time I see you, I feel better. And my virtual clientele has really expanded.
Nice.
Since the pandemic, and that's really refreshing to have all these people. And obviously, I can talk channel, about astrology or, things, but, how they can still feel, the energy piece, even though, they're not doing an in-person session and have the positive results. I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, that pain did go away.
Right. Yeah.
I feel I don't know what she did, but my back feels better.
Yeah, I'm doing theta healing right now through Zoom. So yes, you can do it over Zoom. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
So you helped me cut the cord with Bella.
Yeah,
that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, and it's not, and I like to consider it more of like a cord releasing or a cord pulling, because if you cut the cord, the root's still there, right? So I really work on removing it, filling it back in, but it's not about making you disconnected with obviously somebody that you will always have an amazing love connection with. But it's about restoring the appropriate energy to the appropriate parties, so then you can just freely exchange that love. Or if it's somebody who's not a loved one that just needs to not be in your world anymore, you don't have those energetic entanglements so much where people are like, oh my God,
you're constantly thinking about them, talking to them. They're always popping up, and we all have those certain people, who aggravate us or who just set us off, and it's interesting, when you.
It's a crystal.
Obsidian. Like, whoopsie. But I forgot. That right there. That took it.
Switch the topic.
Yeah. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being on my show and for lighting a joint with me. And for, just sharing your story and your information. I know it's hard, and there's a lot of people who look at, us differently, and, have their own judgments, and
I've learned that I'm built to talk about weird things and the things that necessarily other people don't talk about. And I've learned just not to be afraid of what other people think about that.
Yes.
Other people's opinions of me is not my business, right? Like, as you, while you want everybody to,
not everybody's
to
like
love
us.
you, think you can, you're not always everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. But honoring, everyone's respective journeys, and if I've come to, I know that I speak from an authentic space and from a point of truth, and always love, even if it's not the easiest thing to say, it's always based out of love. So, I'm just going to say the things.
Right.
Other people can say really.
Yeah.
And okay, that's their thing.
Well, and in the same turn, like you said, I might not be everybody's cup of tea. They might not be my cup of tea. They might not be your cup of tea. Again, so it's that empathy and that compassion and understanding, like, we can agree to disagree.
Absolutely.
And we can agree to not be friends.
And that's life.
Yes.
And that's life. And even with loved ones, people who that are going to be, a part of your journey, once you connect forever. And, honoring, you don't always have to share the same opinion that's on everything. And you can disagree about things, and you can still love each other and be friends, be family, be, you just don't talk about those things.
Right.
You don't agree.
Well, yeah. And that's
share
just
those
it.
things with the
You
people.
find those topics,
Mhm.
that you can agree on, that you can have a relationship on,
Mhm.
a mature relationship,
Mhm.
and then let everything else go.
Mhm.
Let all the pettiness go.
Yeah, we're all reparenting ourselves.
Yes,
Because
yes.
everybody just tried their best. Our parents tried their best.
We did the best with our kids.
Tried their best. Yeah,
Our
God
kids
knows
are going
I'm
to do the best they can.
not a perfect mom, but
No one is.
tried my best. Nobody is.
No
Nobody's
one
perfect.
is.
That's the
Right.
perfect.
I love, when the kids come back and they're like, oh, I'm going to show you, I'm going to do it differently. And it's like, yes, please do it differently.
Right. Do it however you want.
Yes.
Like, I've given you information and tools, so you have that as
guidance,
as guidance,
whether it be right or wrong, or you agree or disagree.
And you can make the choice to take it or leave it. But
Yes.
at least I shared something with you that I felt was important, or taught or guided. Whether you utilize that information, I can't control that.
No.
But at least I know you have it to use as part of your repertoire to make your own further decisions.
Yes.
And come up with your own ideas.
Yeah.
And your own way of doing things.
Yeah, exactly.
For whatever fits you.
Yeah. And that perspective is really like helping me, with my mom, and my dad, and, repairing those relationships, and my brother and my sister. Again, it's we all have to learn how to have that compassion and that empathy for each other. And then the two parties or whoever's in that party has to agree to want to work on the relationship.
For sure.
And we were talking about that earlier, where it's, like you said, you're forgiving yourself, you're forgiving that other person, but then you're not holding it against them.
Right. And I've been really blessed with my family, and I have two younger brothers, and I just, even though obviously as children we didn't always get along.
You're growing up in the same house.
Right. I could not
sanctuary.
imagine my life better now without them, right? But I will say something that's I was gifted in that, on this journey that we're all on as a family, that even when I have had differing viewpoints or ideologies or ways of, operating on my path, like, even if they didn't agree with it, even if they didn't like it, like, they still always loved me, and they still always love me, and, and accept me for me, and that, they just have a different opinion or a different way of doing things for them.
Right. And really that's all it is at the end of the day. It's embracing your individuality, just like it's embracing mine, and letting you be you, letting you shine your light.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just love people.
Yes.
Well, it's, I guess, everybody can get on your nerves, right? But
girl, I can get on my own nerves. So,
but again, that's the grit. And that's sometimes it's like when we own, like, sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
Yes.
And like when you look and like, I'm the one who's been holding myself back. I'm the one.
Exactly. Who's doing it? Me. Yeah, it's really interesting when we're able to move out of that victim mentality instead of saying, oh, well, so-and-so did that and this is why I did that. And it's like, no. And
it's been huge collectively of you've nailed it, of coming out of that victimhood mentality that everybody's been stuck in. And you know what I mean? Like, just because I had trauma doesn't mean like that I have to live in it or talk about it, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I can, it can be different, and I can still live a life as happy and joyful as I can make it. Exactly. Right? Like, because what's the point of being here to be miserable?
That's why
it's a lot of work to be here.
Yes.
Again, I'm not saying it's not a lot of work. These contracts we signed up for, I'm not saying it's not a lot of work. I'm not saying it's not difficult or easy, but like, we have to make the best of it. And because I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be miserable. I don't
want to be depressed. I want to find joy and happiness. And so, it's changing that internal dialogue. And
it's so hard to, a majority of the people that are, drawn to me, to work with me, are people with trauma backgrounds, and, not necessarily there's all different forms of trauma, right?
Oh,
Like people will,
yes.
look at like, oh, because you were physically assaulted, you know what I mean? It's not, there's a lot of mental and emotional and spiritual components too.
Well, and there's not a right or wrong trauma.
No,
You
it's
know what
how
I mean?
you
It's how you
interpret it.
internalized it.
It's
Yes.
how it affected you.
Right.
And those, it's the hardest, most challenging, and I've been working so hard. It's the hardest, most challenging thing to get out of your own head,
Yes.
to get out of your own chaos, to say, I'm not going to think badly about myself. I'm not going to have low self-esteem. I'm not going to be like, oh, why me? Why does this always, you know what I mean? Like,
right. And people don't understand like that. So what we think about ourselves is a direct reflection that we are giving out to the people around us.
mm-hmm.
And we don't understand how that affects them and us.
Absolutely.
And when we're able to change that internal dialogue, and we're able
mm-hmm.
to find, thankfulness and appreciation and gratefulness, and
sure.
love for each other.
mm-hmm.
And then it's interesting how like everyone else around you kind of like blossoms in a way.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's beautiful to watch happen.
It's beautiful. And and like, again, with the boundary work, like, and what it's like to have a teenager, right? And there are different levels in the teenage experience, and as a parent, and and you think like what happened, right? Like, how do I fix, like, this is not okay, like,
right.
how, and then literally just putting up those boundaries
mm-hmm.
and saying, I'm allowing him to be him, I'm allowing me to be me,
yes.
Just doing that, and just like,
how many times as parents do we project
the shifts that occur without
yes.
having to do anything, without having to say anything,
right.
without having
right.
to, it's like,
right.
Oh,
that's beautiful.
You just get a little better on the dishes.
Yeah. Come on now.
Trying to program that. The dishes will magically be done. I'll never have to say anything about it.
You know what, though? There's going to come a day where he's going to move out and those dishes aren't going to be missing anymore. Right. And it's going to be bittersweet. Yeah.
It is. It really is. And that's where you kind of think about like, oh, we're, he'll be 18 next year, where at that point, who knows where he could go on his journey. He'll have that freedom, maybe he'll, be living with us longer, but maybe,
I'm just starting to have a little crying session right now. Yeah. Just, I don't know why. Just releasing it. It is 12/12.
That's why I always have the tissues out.
Thank you.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Goodness.
And, and it's not always, and that's another thing, there's so many types of tears, and it's just feeling, and it's just emotion, and it's just expression, and it doesn't mean it's a sad tear. It's a powerful emotion of joy and of love, and, of knowing what you've been through as a mother, and, you're doing an amazing job, and you've tried your best, and you have the beauty and carrying, Bella's spirit on through your work, and it's a beautiful thing. And I hope you recognize that and are really proud of yourself, because I know I'm proud of you, and I think there are a whole lot of other people out there that are really proud of you, for no matter how hard it gets, to sticking to your mission and sharing your story and your experience and your journey.
Oh, goodness. Thank you.
You're a beautiful being, and I appreciate you.
Oh, I love you. I love you. On that note, I wish you all the continued success.
Thank you so much. You too.
Yes. And just, you never know. Just what we're creating.
Yeah. I've got plans.
Yes, ma'am.
Can't wait for everyone to see them.
Yes, ma'am. I'm planning on living to 112, so let's go.
That's what I look at my times. I'm like, wait, I'm not there yet.
I know.
I'm like, okay, I still have a lot of decades to go.
Right.
It's a journey, not a race.
That's right, it is. It's a journey, not a race. I hope you all take time to center yourself and find your breath, ground yourself, and reach out to Nicole if you're interested in her services as well. I'll have to put your website up so people can contact you too.
Yeah.
But yeah, she does amazing work, and you got to check it out.
Yes, thank you so much. I had such an amazing time and experience. Love to all. Love to connect.
Peace, everyone. Take care. Have a wonderful day.